Hi, everybody. My name is Alex Golub, and welcome to the third edition of International E-Commerce Day. I'm going to be your host with Paul Klebanov. First, I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. We are very excited to bring you this incredible lineup. And I also would like to thank our dear partners at GetResponse for their support. Okay, so Paul is a digital marketing specialist who works at SEMrush, and he's going to bring today one of his good topics about 6 ways to growth hack your funnel into a conversion driving machine. You almost took my breath away.
Awesome.
So I'm going to put your PowerPoint presentation. It's on full screen, and you have the mic.
Awesome. Hello, everyone. I'm super excited to be here and come back. I know I was here in 2006. I believe I did a presentation on PPC. So before I get started, I just want to give everyone a little bit of a backstory about me. I see a comment right here, straight from Neil Patel Show. Awesome, Paul. Yeah, I coordinated the Neil Patel Summit. So I don't know if you attended the Neil Patel Summit, but anyway, a little bit about myself. Not too long ago, I ran an e-commerce business in the home decor space. And in 2011, I was 967. So my business made the top internet retailers in the United States. And I carried all the top name brand products in the space. So Elk Lighting, Hooker Furniture, Better Home and Garden, Paula Deen Furniture, Stanley Furniture. So all the top name brand products. And by late 2014, I had 4 major flagship sites. So it's PPL Vanities, PPL Fishing, PPL Tile, and Decorify.com. PPL Stores was like an aggregate of all my inventory. And by late 2015, my e-commerce site had to close down because my merchant bank placed me on the blacklist for selling products that I wasn't registered to sell and high chargeback rates. Because what happened was grandma received a check. She would call the merchant bank. She would say it's broken, and they would charge her credit card bank back. So high chargeback rates and selling products that I wasn't registered to sell. So to make the long story short, what did I do? I started looking for a job. And so that's how I got into SEMrush. And today I came into the company as a digital marketing strategist, but then I sort of begged everyone I wanted to talk and speak about marketing. It's a subject matter that I'm really passionate about. And so I ended up doing presentations just like this. So thank you for having me at E-Commerce Day, and I hope that I could give you some value. So I always like to say that conventional wisdom is always wrong. So for this presentation, I am going to give you 6 unconventional growth hacks. It's actually 8 because I decided to add 2 more growth hacks right before this presentation. So I'm going to give you 2 extra bonuses. So the first question is, how do you cut down your PPC costs? Everyone that I always talk to always comes up to me and they always tell me that their suggested bids are very high, especially on Facebook right now. So how do you cut those down? And I tell them, you pay more to pay less. And then they look at me and they're like, what? Pay more to pay less? Like, what do you mean? So to further explain this, what I like to do is just to take you a little bit back. Let's go back in history and talk a little bit about print media. So in the print media world, let's say L'Oreal runs this placement in Vogue magazine. And so when they run this placement, let's say that L'Oreal creates a bad product. And this product causes an allergic reaction. So women that put the makeup on their face, they have breakouts, and then it causes a bad experience for a subset of the readers. So let's say 200 of the women readers reading Vogue have these breakouts. And so this ad elicits a negative emotional response from these women. So over a period of time, if this ad causes their subscribers to unsubscribe, Vogue, the magazine, really has no way of knowing. Because in the print media world, it's not very scientific. Whoever has the most bullets in terms of advertisers win the war. So if CoverGirl comes on to Vogue and they want to buy this exact placement, and L'Oreal pays more, so they have competition. There's more demand for this placement. So if L'Oreal pays more, then Vogue is just going to increase the price, and then L'Oreal is going to get that placement, even though L'Oreal's product is not as good and it's negatively affecting their subscribers. So there's no real data that Vogue can get to prove that page 50 causes a bad experience for their users. I want to make sure everyone is clear on this point. So if anyone could put like yes, yes, yes in the checkbox, then I'll know to move on. All right, awesome. So yes, yes, yes. Okay, great. So Facebook, who here saw the Q4 earnings report in 2016 at the end that Facebook gave? Raise your hand or say yes if you saw it, if you heard of it. I see one yes. Yes. All right. So at the end last year, in Q4, investors came on the call and they asked about this specific problem that Facebook has. And their problem is that Facebook can't replicate the GDN network. So right now, if you go to advertise through the GDN network, sort of Google has a lot of inventory. Like you can place your ads on Forbes, you can place your ads on Inc., and you can place your ads on thousands upon thousands of different publishers' websites by bidding through the GDN. But Facebook, like Vogue, they just have their network of users. So Facebook just has Facebook. And so what happens is if Christine and Stephanie that were reading Vogue magazine, if L'Oreal advertises on Facebook, and Christine and Stephanie could close those ads and tell Facebook that they don't want to see these ads. And so this allows Facebook to have indicators on which type of ads their subscribers don't want to see, because they don't want to risk losing their subscribers. Because if they lose Christine and they lose Stephanie and they lose 200 other women because L'Oreal created a bad product, then they have less eyeballs to monetize, they have less attention, and that means that their revenue is going to drop. And this is why Mark Zuckerberg and the entire Facebook team said in this article that their revenue growth is going to start slowing down because of this max ad load issue. But the only difference between Vogue and Facebook is that Facebook actually has those indicators. So what they did is they created two types of ads. They created quality inventory and non-quality inventory. So what this means is that if L'Oreal wants to advertise, in this example, on Facebook, and Christine and all of a sudden Stephanie and maybe 180 other women close that ad and don't engage with that ad, what Facebook is going to do, they're not necessarily going to go to L'Oreal and they're going to say, look, L'Oreal, you can't advertise on this placement. What they're going to tell them is that particular ad for this company, it's going to cost them more to advertise than, say, CoverGirl, because L'Oreal's ads, they are not the best for their users. And so that becomes something that Facebook is doing. They're optimizing ads based on engagement and based on their quality inventory indicators. So what are those quality inventory indicators? That's the question. And so I put those indicators right here on the screen. And the reason why I did this is because I want to tell you that you can hack these indicators to be placed into the quality inventory brackets. So when you run your advertising ads, your CPC costs are going to be lower than your competition. So a lot of people tell me they're saying my CPC costs are high. That's because they're not in the quality inventory bracket. If your ads are in that bracket, then Facebook is going to want to promote your ad, show your ad, and so your suggested bids are going to be different than my suggested bids or your competitor's suggested bids. So your question is, okay, Paul, great, how do I do this? So this is how. The first thing you do when you go into Facebook and you start advertising your creative is that you have to do manual bidding, okay? So change to manual bidding and don't do auto bidding. Once you see manual bidding, you switch to manual bidding, take your suggested bids, right? And then multiply them by 3 and pay that number. So do manual bidding, suggested bids by 3. So in the beginning, you're paying more, but then you'll pay less, and I'll get to that in just a moment. So as soon as you do that, what you end up doing, your Facebook is incentivized when you first launch your campaign, because you're bidding 2 times more than the suggested bid, to show your ad to more of their users. So you're starting to get more awareness on your ad. And so if one thing that I actually missed, the very important point, I want everyone to really understand this, is you want to run a per engagement campaign. So you take your suggested bids, you multiply them by 3, you do manual bidding, and you have to run a per engagement campaign. So when you run a per engagement campaign and you raise your bids, what Facebook starts to do, starts driving more awareness to your actual creative. And then people start engaging with your ad. They start liking your ad. They start commenting on your ad. And what that shows Facebook is that you have a really good creative. That creative has a lot of engagement. And so if it is a good creative, has a lot of engagement, you growth hack time because it happens very quickly. And then you're also going to have a higher click-through rate. And so because your ad is shown to more people, and that's going to show Facebook that it's a more relevant ad. So now you have a relevant ad that has a lot of engagement. And so you're building a good history with Facebook. It shows them that you have a quality ad. And the last thing that you want to do is you want to raise those budgets. Because what happens is when you raise your budget, the way that Facebook works is that they want to allocate more CPU usage to those advertisers that have the higher budgets, because they're really stringent on their CPU usage. So the CPU usage basically means that their machine is going to spend more time optimizing your ad for the best conversions, for the best CPC costs. It's going to optimize your ads more. All right. So as soon as you do that, you're going to have an ad that is really engaging. All right. So once I run this ad for, let's say, a week and a half, what I do after that is I change for paying per engagement to paying per website conversion. And when I start paying per website conversion, I leave everything the same. I still do manual bidding, but my suggested bids, they decrease, because they decrease on the creative that I'm advertising. That creative that has a lot of engagement. With the ad, it's quality inventory, and that's why my suggested bids are lower. And it's really important for you to do what I said in that following order, because time is very crucial here. If you just launch your ad and it doesn't gain virality quickly, then your ad is not going to have a late engagement for a long period of time. That is bad. It shows Facebook that you don't have a good creative. This is why it's very important in the beginning to do that ×3 multiple on the suggested bid. Does that make sense, everyone? Yes, awesome. So the next question that everyone probably has is, how do you actually create this ad, right? It's awesome, like we'll create this creative, but the actual structure for creating this ad is just as important. So here's exactly how we're going to go about doing this. So here's a sample ad on Facebook. It says, Will.i.am doesn't have time to read the Wall Street Journal. And so this is an example of viral ad that I'm talking about. And so here's another example of an ad. So I spoke at IMX, Internet Marketing Expo. It was a few days ago, and Daryl Evs, he created this ad. It's called "The Unicorn Changed the Way I Poop." It's actually a viral ad. It got 31,036,201 views. It's for a company called Squatty Potty. It was Lori, who here knows of Shark Tank? Lori invested in that company. They hired him, and so he created this amazing ad. And it follows a similar formula and structure that I'm about to talk about. So this is why I wanted to give you some samples. Okay, so now we're getting to the formula. Who's excited to know a little about the formula, exactly how to structure these ads, the content in these ads? Yes, we do. Okay, awesome. So the first thing that you always want to keep in mind, that you want your ad to elicit an emotional response. So happiness, anger, hope, inspiration, sadness, nostalgia, laughter, lust, wrath, envy, fear, pride. It has to elicit an emotional response. So when you create any type of ad or content for Facebook, you never want to just give someone an exposition or just deliver raw text. What you want to do is you want to tell us a story. And the reason why you want to tell a story is because a story appeals to people because it helps their brain map things. So the setting helps them contextualize things in the real world, when and where the story actually happens. The character, sort of like I started this webinar, I started with my e-commerce business. I'm the character. The character gives them something to root for and something to root against. And then we have the conflict. The conflict creates tensions, right? It's the problem. So you list out the problems that that person has, and this is where you start talking about the problems. This creates tensions, and it gives them curiosity to want to know what the actual resolution is. And the resolution is the ending of your story, which is the solution to the problems that you talked about in your conflict. It's the end of the story, right? So you want to be able to tell a story in your creative. And literally, when I write ad copy, and this even applies to SEO, when I write an article, I literally bullet out setting, character, conflict, resolution. And this is the exact structure that I use whenever I create any ads or write any article, because it helps bring your message to life, right? So you want to make sure that you have these 4 things. Okay, so here's the Will.i.am example. I just put here the landing page. It follows this exact structure again, and he tells his story within the context of the Wall Street Journal. Here's another article that I want to talk about. This article went viral. The interesting thing here, it actually went viral in China. The reason why I put this article here is it went viral really fast and really quickly. And Lin and Chong, they actually didn't win the gold medal. In this article, it just, their story is so powerful and it follows this formula to a T. So if you read this article, you'll get a really clear idea of exactly how it should be structured. So the way to really think about this when you structure your story is that you have the lock is the problem, and the key is your solution, right? So when you tell your story, when you have the setting, the character, the conflict, the resolution. When you tell your story, the lock is the problem. And the problem has to be really clear, because if the problem is not clear, then the ending, right, the solution, the key won't open the door. So if the lock is not really clear and the key is not exact, it won't open the door and you won't sell your problem. That's why when you build a narrative, when you tell a story, you're making the problem really clear in your story. So by the time you get to the end, when you get to the solution to your product, it opens that door and they buy. Does that make sense, everyone? Just want to make sure everyone's on the same page. All right, awesome. Yes, nice, on it. Great, thank you. So the point here is that I always like to say that great marketers make even greater psychologists, right? So SEO, like search engine optimization, is something that we're going to talk a little bit about towards the end, is not really marketing. Just because Microsoft and Google and a company came along and built a wall that you have to climb to get to the user's attention, it doesn't mean that marketing isn't a discipline that's built on consumer psychology, or built on the basis of consumer psychology. It's important to learn how to and know how to climb that wall, so once you get to the user's attention, you know what to do. But at the end of the day, when you run an advertising campaign, when you write an article, your message is getting delivered to people. So this is why I like to say great marketers make even greater psychologists. So I just shared with you four tips, hacking tips, and I would like to share with you 4 more. And so when creating these next 4, I asked myself this one question. If you had no extra resources and you only had 90 days to save your e-commerce business, back when I had my e-commerce business and it crashed, what would I do? And so I created the next 4 growth hacking tips in the context of e-commerce. Anyone here have an e-commerce business or is interested in starting an e-commerce business or has clients with that sell physical products through e-commerce? Raise your hand, let me know. Yes, but makes no sales. Awesome. Mike Williams, yes. Nice. All right, so these will be really helpful for Mike. It'll be really helpful for you. So I hope you guys enjoy this. Okay, so the first thing, high retention is greater than high conversion. Here's what I mean. When I first started my business, it was really tempting for me. And what I did in the beginning, I put the highest converting products on the top, right? On the homepage, because I thought these are the highest converting products. So it makes sense to put them on the top. What I advise that you do is that you put those products that give you the highest retentions on the top. Okay, instead of the highest converting, the products that give you the highest retention. The reason for that is right here, if you have your site connected to Google Analytics, if you look at what I did is you look at your cohort analysis. This is the way that I figured it out. And so I looked at all my sales when the sales came in, and then I looked at month 1 and then month 2, and I looked at what products created the returning customer. So after a customer would buy maybe a pillow from my site, they would return and they would buy bedding. So there was a certain category of products and manufacturers that people would buy that would cause them to come back and buy another product. And so those products that cost new orders, I would put on the front, on the pages that had the most attention. For example, my homepage. So this is really important insight that I think everyone should do, is put the products that have the highest lifetime value instead of the products that convert the most. Because a lot of times what you're going to find is the cost to acquire a customer is going to be greater than the actual profit that you make on your first order. So this will allow you to break a profit on your second order. So this is why this is extremely important. So the second tip that I had from my e-commerce website, this is unconventional growth hack number 5, is reverse risk. And so here's a really interesting story. So when I had my e-commerce business, on my actual checkout page, I would always have a 30-day money-back guarantee. But I was selling furniture at the time, so when a customer, they would come to the product details page and I would go through the checkout, the 30 days, they were still thinking about the 30 days. So it would take 7 days to ship the couch to their house. And then if the couch is broken, then they have less time to actually return the product. So it was still in their mind that the return, right? It was risk. So I had to reverse that risk in their mind. So what I experimented with, and I didn't really know what was going to happen at the time, was instead of putting 30 days, I put 90 days. And so initially when I put 90 days, I thought that was going to increase the returns on my e-commerce website. If I put 90 days, then when people would buy a product, they would have more time to return it, and they would return more products. And what I found was extraordinary. So I increased my conversions. I believe at the time it was like 17% on the actual checkout, but my returns stayed exactly the same. Nothing changed at all. The returns stayed the same. So I increased the conversions because I added that risk reversal, because when they came to the site, they weren't even thinking about the returns because it was 90 days, but the same amount of people returned the product. So this is unconventional growth hack number 2. The second thing, unconventional growth hack number 6, is create behavioral email marketing campaigns. So how many here use something like Aweber or Infusionsoft or Acton for your email service provider? Who here sends automated emails or has an email newsletter? Me too. Get response. Awesome. So a lot of people always ask me, MailChimp, is what is the difference between MailChimp, Get Response, and then the more costly alternatives like Infusionsoft or even Drip.com, which isn't as costly. I believe it's like, don't quote me on the price, maybe like $50 a month. So who here in this chat room wants to know what the biggest distinction is between companies like Get Response and MailChimp versus companies like Drip.co, Acton, Infusionsoft? Pete says, yes, me. Yes, awesome. So here's the big difference. Companies like drip.co allow you to do behavioral-based pitching. So right now, you just have an email list and you email that list. What behavioral-based pitching means is you're focusing more on what people do rather than what they say. Here's exactly what that means. Let me give you an example. Let's say that someone goes to my website, they read a blog post, right? And then they go to the checkout, right? Once they go to the checkout, I could send them an email with a discount code. Or somebody reads a blog post, goes to the checkout, or goes to a product details page, looks at the price, and then leaves. And then comes back and then leaves. And then comes back the third time. So after they come back the third time, based on that action, based on that trigger, right, I send them an email. So it's based on what people actually do, not what they say. So let's say, for example, I'm going to give you something in the context of SEMrush, right? Let's say somebody comes to SEMrush and they start reading an article about PPC because they're interested in PPC. So based on the articles that they're reading, I could send them an email to a tool or a feature in SEMrush based on the type of behaviors and based on what they do, not on what they say. But let's say somebody comes to SEMrush and they start reading articles and then they click on the bottom to the employment page to see what positions are available online. And they want to work for SEMrush. Well, then I could start building a list for HR so she could send out emails to those people telling them what open positions are within SEMrush. So it could be used for recruitment, right? And maybe that person would not necessarily fit the customer avatar of buying one of our most expensive plans because they're likely not able to afford it. So I wouldn't be sending them emails for those plans. Does that make sense? So it allows you to build a database and create a criteria and rules that you can then use to send people emails. If somebody opts into your email, here's another example, and you send them emails like a course. So on day 1, you send them a video. On day 2, you send them a video. And day 3, you send them a video and sort of nurturing them to the sale. And you find that there's certain people that go through the video quicker, right? You can make it that so as soon as a person finishes a video, you send them video 2 right away. They don't have to wait till day 2. Does that make sense? So it's all based on behavioral based pitching. All right. The other benefit is it allows you to create a lead scoring system. And so I don't want you to get distracted by this code right here. It's not very technical. So I just wanted to show you. So for example, every single link on your website, when somebody clicks on it. So for example, like I said, if somebody goes on your pricing page and they look at your pricing page and then they read a review of your product, you can start incrementing their score. So if it's from 0 to 10, but they're looking at your pricing page, then you could give them an 8. If they start reading a review or an article about certain features in your tool, you can start increasing and decreasing their actual score. It's called the lead score based on their actions. And then if they go to the employment page, to my example, then you could take it down to 2 because maybe this person will not buy the product, right? So this is really simple. Like in your on your HTML elements. So for example, on the on-click attribute, I would simply write increment score, and I would have that lead score, and then I would pass that lead score into something like Salesforce or Pipe, and then after that, my salespeople would know what the lead score is of that person, and even based on that lead score, I could send out and trigger email campaigns. So unconventional growth hack number 7 that I did, layer your channels, create win-back campaigns. Okay, so this is really important. So who here wants to know what a win-back campaign is and how I structured PPC in my e-commerce store? All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit about layering right now. We do, awesome. So the way that I did PPC, so in the beginning, the way that I made the top internet retailers in the United States, it was all based on organic traffic, on SEO, because I was ranking for those bottom of the funnel keywords, those long tail keywords. But then what started when I got into PPC, I started layering channels. So here's how I increased conversion, not new user acquisition, new customer acquisition, new lead acquisition. I started using PPC to increase conversion on my site. And this is exactly how I did that. So my first step, when somebody would come to my product details page with the buy now button, and they would leave that page, I knew that there was two main reasons why, two main sticking points why they would leave a page on the transactional state, the lower end of the buyer's journey, the bottom of the funnel keywords. And that was what I talked about previously, the risk reversal, right? Because they were worried about the return. And the second thing is the price, right? For bottom of the funnel transactional keywords, those are the two main things because they already know what it is that they want. So the second thing that I did is I would run a retargeting campaign after they would drop off that product details page, and that retargeting ad would send them to a newsletter opt-in offering them a general promotion, like get discounts of products on Decorify.com. Does that make sense? And so as soon as they would opt in, I would do the following. I would have this API, it's an application programming interface. I put a bit.ly link. It's basically a simple string and it's a service. This service is the one that I used and it's really cheap. It's like, I believe it's like $20 for like, I don't want to give you the quote, but I was paying like $25, $30 a year for this service. All right, it's very cheap. So they would give me a string, I would put it in my code. And so when somebody opted into that newsletter and they gave me their email address, I would pass it into this API, into this string, and it would return all of this information. So it would tell me exactly where they're located based on their IP, right? So again, they would opt into my newsletter and I would know, I would have the information about what product they looked at on my e-commerce store. And when they opted into my newsletter, I would know where they are physically located. And as soon as I got that information in my admin area, what I did is I mapped every single product to the distributors. So for example, if I had one product, that product could ship from more than one state. If you have an e-commerce website and you're buying through distributors, a lot of manufacturers go through distributors, and these distributors might have a warehouse in Florida, they might have a warehouse in Texas, they might have a warehouse in Virginia, right? So for example, if my customer was in Texas, and my product, and I was able to ship my product from Texas, and instead of paying $300 on shipping, I paid $100 on shipping, I could pass that $200 of savings over to the customer. So my second retargeting ad would have a picture of the product that they looked when they exited my page, when they dropped out of the product details page, and when they would go on Facebook or they would browse a website, I would retarget them with an image of the product that they looked at, and I would pass that savings on to them. So I would say like call for better price and get 25% off the product that you looked at. So I would overcome that second sticking point with the customer of price. Does that make sense, everyone? Yes, awesome. So the second thing that I want everyone to do is that what I learned early on is that really long forms decrease conversions on your site. So you want to keep your forms very short. And the reason why I tell you this is that because if you have someone's name and if you have someone's email address, you can then take that data, two pieces of data, and then you can build the entire data set around your customers by passing that information into a third party through an API, and you can get the rest of the information. And then you can use that information to target them on GDN and target them on Facebook. So here's another example, full contact, right? So for full contact, they give you the entire social graph of the person. So the only thing that you have to pass into full contact is their email address, and they match that. They give you their Facebook information, their LinkedIn information, etc. So I had this really rich data set about my visitors, not about my customers, about my visitors, to my website just because I ask them for 2 pieces of information. So this is really powerful. So the next growth hack, which is growth hack number 8, is expert trust signals. And this is where we get into a little bit of SEO, and I'm going to show you how you can even apply this within your funnel. So Matt Cutts, he's no longer, Matt Cutts, who knows here who Matt Cutts is, who follows SEO? Me? Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. So Matt Cutts, he was like the lead of link spam, right, at Google. He's no longer at Google. I believe he left towards the end of 2016, so later last year. But he said this quote in a video, and it really struck home with me. And he said, quality and trust signals are increasingly surrounding content and the individuals who write them. And so the key point here is, and the individuals who write them. And the reason why this is important, and I'll explain this in just a second. So if you go into SEMrush and you're doing your keyword research, you can put into SEMrush a keyword like bodybuilding, right? And you can export all of these keyword ideas. So right here I have 2,852,334 keyword ideas. And then I could take all those keyword ideas. You could even go into SEMrush and put like bodybuilding.com. So you could put your competitors, and then you could export all of the keywords that they rank for. And this is the typical process of doing keyword research. I'm not going to get into it's outside the scope of this webinar, but you guys can check out some of my other webinars. I did a webinar on doing an advanced site audit. And so I went through keyword research in that webinar extensively. And so what you would do is you would just create your set of keywords, themed keyword sets that you want to target for your article. Who here is familiar with SEO, like the basic process of doing keyword research and writing articles? Raise your hand or comment in the chat. We do, yes, awesome. So I would create this keyword set, and then I would rank right here each keyword by keyword difficulty. And basically, keyword difficulty in SEMrush, it reveals a relevance gap. What that means is that it shows you from a score 0 to 100 which keywords are more difficult to rank for than others. And so if you do a Google search and you see that the internet's top 100 websites, because this is based on our SEMrush rank factor, which takes into consideration the top 100,000 websites, aren't ranked on the first page, then it means that Google is trying really hard to find a good answer to someone's problem. So if Pinterest is not indexed, or for example, if a social media site is indexed on the front page, or a forum or an unknown blog is indexed on the front page, that shows you that there's that relevance gap, and that gives you opportunity to write a really good article following that formula that I just suggested, answering somebody's problem and ranking for that keyword. So this is why I have the keyword difficulty here, the keyword volume. So I would do this keyword research right away, and then I would write this article. Right, I would have that piece of article, and then the second thing that you can do is you can, and I'll get into influencers in just a minute. So back to this initial point that I had about Matt Cutts' quote, about it's more important about the individuals who write them. So the next thing that you want to do when you have that article, when you're looking to write that article, that article doesn't necessarily need to sit on your domain. That's what Matt Cutts is trying to tell you when he says individuals who write them, right? Because when you have an article that sits on, let's say, one of the top 100 websites online, so like you pick whatever your niche is. For example, I'm in marketing. So if I was to write an article like I did right here, let me just, on a website like BigCommerce, which is a highly authoritative website around e-commerce. They have a great blog, right? If I was to write articles on BigCommerce, I would build authority around my name because I would be associated with these brand names. So my content wouldn't sit on my domain, it would sit on all these other domains. And so if I publish my own website and I write an article on my website, even if that article doesn't have a backlink, because Google sees me, Paul Klebanov, as an authority, they would rank my article over the competition. Does that make sense, everyone? So it's a really big trust signal. It's more important. It's about not only what the way that you answer the question, but who answers it, right? Exactly. Yep. Author authority. That's exactly right. So there's, I believe, 167 cognitive biases, right? And so the authority bias is one of the biases, and Google knows these biases, and they implement that within the ranking factors. Who here heard of RankBrain? So if you know what RankBrain is, none of the engineers at Google are right now, they don't touch the Google's algorithms. It's all based on machine learning, right? So Google understands this, and this is why it's very important that when you write your articles, you also write articles for other channels. And the second thing is, remember the authority bias. It's all about psychology. Great marketers make even greater psychologists, right? So when you create an email campaign and when you start sending emails and you want to nurture your prospects through the buyer's journey, through the open and close of the sale, you can link them to an article on another domain, right? And so you're taking advantage of that authority bias because in their mind, they're relating you to that logo on the top because your article, your actual content holds more weight in their mind because it's on Forbes, because it's on Inc. Does that make sense? Awesome. So this is why it's really important. So if you want to find influencers in your space, what you do, this is what I do. If you want to know exactly the best places to pitch so you can put your content on other people's channels, what you can do is you could use a tool like Right Relevance, and you can do a search right here. It's a free tool, like you put bodybuilding, and it'll show you all the top influencers in your space. And then when you find those top influencers, what you can do is then you can take their names, you could go into SEMrush, and you could run a brand monitoring campaign, and you can see when they're mentioned online. So as you're following those influencers, you can see, like, this is sort of like a hint, like how I find like webinars like e-commerce day is because I follow influencers in my market, and I see, oh, Andy Crestodina or Rand Fit, or whoever did a webinar with e-commerce day, so maybe I could do a webinar with e-commerce day. You should be doing the same thing, right? And so you can put this into SEMrush, and then as soon as you put an influencer into SEMrush, you'll get alerts. You could even get email alerts telling you exactly when their name was mentioned. And then you can sort of follow them as they book engagements, as they write new articles to get ideas of where to do outreach. Does that make sense, everyone? Awesome. So here's an example, like I wrote an article on BigCommerce following that exact thing. The last thing that I want to tell you is that when you write articles on your domain, not other people's domain, what you could start doing is something that I call leveling up. And the reason why leveling up is so important is because if we go back to that table, right here, let me show you that table, right? What I would do is I would put the lowest competitive word. So like keyword difficulty, I would put in the one with the lowest score. So for example, in this example, it's 78.26. I would put this keyword in the title. I would write an article answering the question for this keyword and all these related keywords. After I would rank for keyword 1, I would switch the title in my article to keyword 2, and I would make sure that that keyword is in the article, the second keyword and the third keyword. And so I would level up. As soon as I would rank for the lowest performing keyword, I would change that article to rank for the second most competitive keyword. And then after I would see that I would be on page 1 for the second most competitive keyword, I would change the title, and then I would go try to rank for the third most competitive keyword, right? So this is called leveling up. Start with your lowest competitive keyword first. Once you rank that article, start updating that article, and that I call that leveling up, and that is very popular. Not very popular, it's very effective. Okay, so I just want to thank everyone. Right now, I think I went a little bit over. I'm sorry about that. I hope everyone got a lot of value. If you want to get a free trial of SCMrush, you can go to scmrush.com/ecommerce-day. Now forward you to a 14-day free trial, and I'd love to take all your questions. So Q&A.
Hi, Paul.
Hey.
Awesome presentation. I just want to say, I think we have time for one quick question.
Yeah. And before we do, I want to let everyone know, if you guys, sorry about cutting it short, not being able to go to Q&A, email me anytime if you have any questions. I'd love to answer you. So at the end of this webinar, just email me. I'll answer anything you guys have.
Okay, so we're live with a video again.
Yeah.
And okay, Joanna is asking, can you send again the link for the trial, please?
Yeah, it's
that is a good question if you think about it.
Oh, you want the link to the trial? That's the question?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right,
okay.
I'll send the link to it's on the deck right now.
Okay, let me just write it up.
It's scmrush.com/ very simple e-commerce _day.
Yeah. Awesome. Anybody else? Do you have a question? Anybody? 5, 4, and if you scroll down, is there any strategy to market my health and beauty products? I think Bobby Hewitt commented on it. And
yeah.
Is
there any strategy to market health and beauty products? I never had anything like that. I never heard anything like that. Yeah, it's like a very generic. So for health and beauty products, I need more context around your e-commerce store. Is it your own product? Are you selling other people's products? Well, I'm not sure. So here's just one quick tip, if I may. When I started my e-commerce business, your first goal should make a list of all the exhibitors in your industry, and because those are all your transactional bottom of the funnel keywords, those brands that have the most awareness. And you need to open up accounts and get their inventory on your site. That's going to drive a lot of awareness. So for your beauty products, make a list of all the top name brands in your store and start carrying those. Those are your transactional keywords. Once you have a lot of awareness and those products are on your site, then you can start layering channels, do what I said with PPC, and then that will allow you to convert a lot more of those into customers. But you need to get that inventory first on your site. All right?
Okay. Yeah, awesome. And we have 3 minutes to go to the other room. But Cosmin asked, if you change the title, don't you lose backlinks?
No, because this is very, this is like 2002 SEO. So again, it's not only about backlinks. If you ever do a search, like do an experiment, take your industry and start doing a search. And what you're going to find is that websites start appearing, and by all on-page metrics, like how many backlinks they have, the popularity of their backlinks, the authority of their backlinks, you'll have people ranking on the top page and they'll have very little backlinks, right? So it's not about matching backlink to keyword to your domain. Okay, you want to change the title. Yeah, it's just too. If you do me a favor, Kelvin, did Kelvin ask this question? Who asked this question?
Cosmin.
Right. Email me. I'll give you a very specific answer. It's also based on Google Rank Brain, and so I could answer you. If
we're limited on time.
Yeah, we're limited on time. So please email me.
Okay. So thank you, Paul. It had a nice presentation. Like even I learned some cool stuff. You rock, but we're time constrained here.
All right. All right.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
And bye.
Bye. Goodbye.